Continuing with newly appointed national executive, the South African Federation of Trade Unions, or Saftu, commented on the fact that as long as the country remains trapped in a neo-colonial economic structure, which is based on the extraction of our minerals to be exported overseas, only to return to the country as a finished product, and thereby creating jobs elsewhere in the world, we will not break the backbone of poverty, unemployment and inequality. So in studio with us, we've got Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi. Good to have you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Lynn.
So we had Saftu skipping in and skipping out. They are so happy with this appointment. I need to get your reaction now. What do you make of the cabinet?
Well, as you were saying in the introduction, we're not interested in names, in the gender of the individuals, in their age, in their race, in their nationality, or anything to do with that. We are more interested with the class agenda that is being pursued. As we were saying, we are saying that if we remain trapped in this neo-colonial economic structure, extract our minerals, do nothing, don't beneficiate, don't build secondary industry, don't build a value chain. Just get them into the trucks, into the nearest harbor, export them overseas, and then bring them back as finished products.
Yeah.
We're not creating jobs in South Africa, we're exporting jobs with our minerals to China and elsewhere in Europe. We remain trapped in that economic structure. It's a neo-colonial economic structure. It's what the neo-colonialists designed for the entire African continent, that this is going to be where they will extract the raw materials for their benefit. That structure have not been broken. Secondly, the neoliberal program, as prescribed to us, in particular, prescribed to the African continent and the rest of the South by the people who would not dare use the same prescription at the time when they were facing similar developmental challenges. But we are now happy to prescribe to us that we must have an inflation target of between 3 and 6%, and that we must do away with our exchange control and allow capital that we so desperately need in the economy to move elsewhere, that we must allow our major companies to list in London, in New York, and elsewhere, and that we must do nothing about illicit cash outflows but be concerned about corruption of the small fishes, whilst billions and trillions leave our economy on a yearly basis untracked, and when we're developing no capacity within the receiver of revenue to track down these illicit traders. As long as we're telling our people that that economic framework is more important than to target aggressively unemployment, poverty, and inequality reduction, we will be where we are now. Worst of all, since 2008 and 9, we have embarked as a country on an austerity program in response to the world economic crisis. We're now embarking on deep budget cuts across the board.
Okay.
There's less money available now than any other time per child at schools. That's why we're seeing growing numbers of kids in front of our teachers. That's our infrastructure in hospitals is at the state that reproduces life many crises everywhere else in the country. Now, any trade union movement that is happy with that framework have lost its marbles.
So, okay, in other words, you're not happy with the way things are?
No, we're not. We're
But
not happy with something that is going to make us, the black majority, the face of poverty, unemployment, propertyless, landless for another 25 years. Certainly we're not happy with that.
Do you not believe that having a look at some of these ministries, the putting together of trade and industry and economic development by having a Minister of Employment and Labour will help? And these are all union guys that perhaps maybe have their workers' needs at heart. We've got Stu Dlamini, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Land Reform coming in, and Rural Development. There's Buti Manamela, there's Pravin Gordhan. Now, Pravin is, we can talk about him if you want to, but, you know, he's one that everybody seems to be talking about. Gwede Mantashe, Bladen Zamande. You know, there seems to be more unionists than ever before. Do they not have your interests at heart as well and the workers' interests?
It depends on what their mandate is.
If the framework is
the IMF and the World Bank framework that says South Africa's priority is about protecting the currency at the expense of developmental challenges, it doesn't matter how brilliant those individuals are, but they are going to fail the poor. They're going to lead us exactly to where we are, where the rich is getting more rich and the poor is getting more poor. So it's not about individual brilliance.
What do you
advise
they do?
It's about what economic policy package
they
are pursuing in which class interest.
So how do we get over this? How do we get over this?
But there's an issue that I want to comment about, the Pravin Gordhan and Fikile Mbalula matter. Now, the public protector is the public protector. We don't care how we regard her, whether we think that she's the worst we have seen, whether we think that she should have not been appointed. We were amongst those who said that it was a mistake, by the way, to appoint her, because every information we were receiving at the time pointed to a worrisome personality in her. But it doesn't matter. What matters now is the principle. The principle says the Constitutional Court unequivocally have stated that her remedial actions are binding to the president and to everybody else unless appealed and set aside by the High Court. In our view, that the president did not say to us, well, guys, I've decided to appoint the Pravin Gordhan despite what the public protector is saying, because my legal advice says those recommendations are set aside now that he is taking the matter to review, and therefore say something to say you respect the constitutionality and the rule of law. And that, in our view, was just showing such a disdain to the office. Forget about Mkwebane, but to the office of the public protector. Above all, the public protector have condemned Fikile Mbalula, and we know he also said, I'm taking her to the High Court. We don't know what came out of it. There's silence since January. You have been making those suggestions that is taking the matter for review. Again, the country is not being taken to its confidence. So to this morning, we're asking a question. What is that Nomvula, Mukonyane, Batabile, Dlamini, Malusi, Gigaba have done different to what Pravin Gordhan is alleged to have done and Fikile Mbalula? Is the
why
consideration,
are they there and why the others not there? And
is
that's
the
the question you're
consideration
asking.
now who belongs to which faction? Is the ANC president a new dawn or a new yawn, reinforcing factional interests above the interest of the country? In particular, when he have so many times said he's going to make a new statement about the need for us to go back to the rule of law, to protect our constitution, to protect our institutions, including our Chapter 9 institution. We are extremely disappointed, and we insist anybody that have a problem overall with the performance of the public protector, do what is right. Go to the parliament. You have power to remove even the sitting public protector if you have a record that shows that she's not fit for the office.
Some people saying that the inclusion of Pravin Gordhan, I know that there have been many negative responses. EFF is the first one to have responded, saying that they are going to make President Cyril Ramaphosa's term as ungovernable as they did for Zuma. That's what they said in their press release. ATM coming out saying the same thing. You're coming out saying the same thing. There are other people, however, saying that they needed that stability in that particular office and in the Office of Finance, because putting the economy first is what's going on. State-owned enterprises have been run into the ground. We need to turn them around. These things need to work. Is that not a priority? And perhaps if things do come out, because there is a question mark over the integrity of the public protector. So we can't honestly look at that and say, well, you know, her hands are clean, she's absolutely fine, and we can just accept it and move on. There are those questions and marks above everything right now.
4 of her reports have been taken to court and set aside. That's not a good start at all. And that's why I'm saying the people who have issues about that, do what you should do. take her to Parliament, get a committee or the Justice Committee to review her work and get her out of that office. But don't say when there is an incumbent, the Constitution and the powers that that office holds do not matter because we have an issue with the incumbent. You are setting a very dangerous precedent because, of course, we know in the past what had happened. There was a public protector, very unpopular to certain quarters at a particular time. Her name was Thuli Madonsela. The ANC was leading the charge of leading personal and launching personal insults against her and telling her to go and jump in the nearest swimming pool when she was making recommendations they didn't like. And now there is a new public protector making recommendations some of them do not like. And they're saying to the country, staff up the public protector. We will listen to her only when we agree
we want to listen to
with her.
Yeah.
Secondly, the issue of Pravin, I have no issue about his individual brilliance. By the way, the same framework applies. As long as he, as the member of the Central Committee at one point, is implementing a pro-big business economic framework, he will fail the poor majority. That's our bottom line. It doesn't matter who that person is, but the economic policy set up, the framework they are implementing, is just going to fail the country and its poor majority dismally.
Okay, Zweli, quickly, finally, just tell me what is the first, from everything you've said right now, because the biggest problem now is we need to create jobs. We need to stimulate this economy. We are not growing. We need this to happen. What is the first thing that these new ministers need to do?
If they could only really consult wider than just the confines of the alliance, if they could speak to more voices. There are voices on the left, not just on the center right and center left within their political framework of friends. If they could speak to greater South Africans to check why 25 years of democracy have produced 38% of unemployment, why 48.3% people in the Eastern Cape are unemployed, why 58% of our youth are unemployed, why our education structure is so dysfunctional, reproducing the same results over and over again, and why are we not taking decisive steps to make sure that we can at least compete with our counterparts in Zimbabwe, Botswana, and elsewhere? Why our public health system is in such a tatters, killing our people in silence, in particular in the former Bandustans, in their thousands. Why life as a Dimeni is happening all over, according to the ombudsman, Professor Mukhoba. So get into a discussion and be prepared to change your minds if the facts dictate to you that what we have done so far is not producing the desired results.
Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi reacting to President Cyril Ramaphosa's executive. Thanks so much for coming in. Let's take a break. Headlines after this. Do stay tuned.